Hi everyone, welcome to GM channel. In this part 4 video of the Sicilian defense, we'll be discussing the hyper-accelerated dragon, the Ocala variation, and the Drago, and at last the Nimzowitsch variation. These are all the sidelines that black players can play after we start with e4, c5, knight f3. We have discussed knight c6, d6, and e6 in the previous videos, the part 1, part 2, and part 3. And in this, we'll discuss the other options that black players can play. They are basically with g6, a6, knight f6. Apart from these moves, black players have also played moves like this, but they are like pretty rare and not really very important, but it's just good to know what white players have to do with this. Just pay a little attention to it, and I think you'll be done with these variations. Let's focus on the hyper-accelerated dragon to begin with. Here, white players have two move orders. They can start with d4 here, or as always, go into the Nimzowitsch structure with c4 and basically prepare for d4 later, either with d4 immediately or knight c3, d4, either way. Actually, like d4 to begin with is more precise, obviously, because knight c6 and knight c3 might allow bishop g7. In this case, achieving d4 will get more difficult for white. So starting with d4 might be the precise way to continue. More or less, white reaches the regular Nimzowitsch structure without much difficulties, and yeah, I think this is pretty clear. White, as always, has the space advantage, and black will have to be looking for the central pawn breaks with a6 b5 or the e6 d5 pawn break. Exchanges favor the black side in general, but okay, like white's play should be slightly more preferable. But end of the day, it's just still a matter of taste. Or white players can also start d4 here, and after c takes d4, there's an interesting line with queen takes d4, which is probably more aggressive, though I think with precise play black should be fine, or white can continue with the regular main line with bishop e3 in this position. This should be heading into the accelerated dragon structures, which we have discussed in the previous videos. I mean, hyper-accelerated dragon can be a move order because, I mean, this is mainly played to avoid all this extra options that black players can play if black continues with the regular move order with nc6 bishop b5. So this is another move order to reach the regular accelerated dragon. Moving on to the next one, the Ocala variation. Okay, this one is a little tricky one. I have seen many players use this in the online games. This is basically a trap variation. The point is, if white players are going to play the regular d4 move in this position, I mean, more or less this is a bad idea for white, because in this case, knight f6 to attack the e4 pawn. Note down, white cannot play e5 because of queen a5. Traps like this exist, and knight c3 will be met with e5. As you can see, black is immediately fighting for the center, and followed by bishop b4. This has some similarities with the we briefly discussed about this when we saw like the Sveshnikov variation. So it's very similar problems, but again, these kind of structures are pretty bad for white. So black has scored heavily in these lines, and in order to avoid this, white players usually continue with c3 or c4 in this position. Again, continuing with natural development, followed by d4. C4, d4 obviously hits into the Nimzowitsch structure, and c3, usually black players react with d5, and this heads into a Lapin kind of variation, with a6 considered as not so useful for black. But white players who are playing this position should be aware of this trap. White should never go d4, that heads into some difficult positions for white. So the Ocala variation ends here, and the third one, this is actually an interesting line that black players play. After cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3. Here we know a6 is the knight off, g6 is the dragon. What we are going to see here is the Drago. Some people write it dragon dorf, and I'm not sure how exactly they spell it, but the idea is basically this: g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3. So far it feels like they're just playing the dragon. here a6 b5 is the move that they continue with. So it's basically a mix of both dragon and knight off, and this is what is called as the dragon off. But mostly, like, whatever ideas that were discussed in the dragon which will be very much relevant in this one also. So queen d2, most probably, like, white will go long castle and black goes short castle, and white tries to open up the h file and try to checkmate the king on the king side, and black will be trying to create some counter chances on the king side, on the queen side. So this is where basically the battle takes place, not very far away from the dragon. But a6 b5 is usually like a plan that belongs to knight off, so it's this line is basically called as the dragon off. And moving on to the final one, which is nf3 and nf6. So this is called as the Nimzowitsch variation. Okay, I don't know. A few years ago, I didn't even think such a move existed. But in the last, I think, like 3-4 years, like, I've seen like many strong players have tried this with black with reasonable success. But again, these kind of lines are more of a surprise line rather than a full-fledged repertoire by itself. White players can try to stay within the regular mainline Sicilians with knight c3. d6 would more or less transpose to the regular structures. Or if black players wish to go into the unique structure that the Nimzowitsch offers, so they go with d5, which is continued with e takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop to b5, followed by queen e2, and knight takes c3, pawn takes d takes c3. This is where the line is heading towards, and this is one way to continue, which is quite interesting for white. Or else they can also start with e5, followed by knight b5 and knight c3. Both these options exist for white in this position. So this is the Nimzowitsch variation, and these are the sidelines that the black players can play in the Sicilian defense. These are not mainstream variations, it's not played extensively by the top players, but once in a while, as a surprise weapon, time and again, black players have used this. If you're an e4 player, if you're going to play the main lines, certainly you should be aware of these systems and should have a very clear plan, a model game to play against these structures. And I think with this part 4 video, I think we are coming to an end with the Sicilian variations. All the lines that black players can play after white enters the open Sicilian, we have discussed in the last few videos, and we concluded here. And with this, I think the Sicilian is over. So I'll see you guys in another video, another interesting one. Many players have requested opening traps. Okay, I'm not sure how to really do this, but what I thought was maybe I'll show the trap, I'll show the ways in which people have made mistakes, and how to basically avoid it. Like, most of the trap lines can basically lead into difficult positions for oneself, because if your opponent basically knows how to handle it, basically they'll be completely fine. But anyways, that's a topic for another video. So if you guys think you have learned something in this video, so please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video then. Thank you.